Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with the real Nate Payo. The show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
From author Donnie Bovine comes the book, How to Be a Success Champion, available on Amazon. After years of living other people's dreams, author Donnie Bovine decided to jump out on his own and start a business, thinking it would be easy. Instead, he had a rude awakening and quickly understood that he had spent 20 years being an employee and had no idea how to be a business owner. His business was tanking, and he was on the brink of losing everything when he decided to fight for business freedom. In this must-read and life-changing book, author Donnie Bovine shares with readers his story intermingled with lessons learned from his mistakes and his failures. And how to be a success champion, you will find advice the author received from mentors and how he went from zero to a six-figure business. The author walks you through the steps of how to get out of your own way, how to play the game of business and win, find your strengths, how to network effectively, how to build a personal brand, how to create champions for your business, how to get great at sales, how to take complete ownership of you and your business. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback editions. Order your copy right now. It makes a great book for corporate events too. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon.
Hello. Welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Payo. Of course, I am your host, Nate Payo. Today, I'm joined with Travis Bell, the bucket list guy, the world's #1 bucket list expert. Welcome to the show, Travis. How are you?
Hey, Nate. Yeah, stoked to be on, mate.
Thanks for coming on. So, I'm looking in your bio here. Self-appointed bucket listologist. That's an interesting word. You help people find their bucket list before it's too late. Yeah. Stopping the Groundhog Days. It's been Groundhog Day for 8 weeks now in a row?
Yeah, well, for some it's been even longer, hasn't it? Pre-coronavirus. So, there's a lot of people in the treadmill of life, and let's hope that this period of isolation has helped us all, take a big deep breath in and recalibrate.
Were you always on a bucket list mission, or did you have an epiphany that says I was doing something and I needed to change my outlook?
Yeah, there's always that breakdown before breakthrough moment, or that confusion before clarity, storm before the rainbow kind of moment. And for me, I went through a bout of depression. I had a business kind of went sideways, and I fell into a pretty sad place. And it was during that time that instead of going on, full-on antidepressants and becoming like a zombie, which I didn't really like the look of, I just got right into personal development, and spent a lot of money, a lot of weekends hugging it out and high-fiving it with strangers, walking on fire, breaking arrows, bending bars, breaking boards, and learning neuro-linguistic programming, positive psychology, and anything I can. And I still do to this day. But it was actually, I was in one of these seminars, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, why don't you teach this stuff?" And it helped me really compartmentalize what I was going through. And I put on a seminar, and at the end of that seminar, and I was really shitting myself to do this first seminar. It was like, we just talked offline about, going all in, facing your fears and doing it anyway. And that first live motivation kind of talk for me, it was scary but the benefit of going all in, the benefit of doing the thing that scares you, is that someone at the end of it actually called me the bucket list guy after some of the stuff that I'd shared. I always had a list written down, a list to do before I die, always written down since I was 18. Not a lot of people knew that about me. And I shared this is about 10 years ago, and I shared this during this presentation. And I was the only freak in the room that had one of these lists written down, and it inspired the group. And there's a bunch of entrepreneurs and people that work for other people in the group, and it really inspired it. The people. It went from a crappy seminar to a not so crappy seminar after that, and someone called me the bucket list guy at the end of it. And that night I went home and registered the domain name thebucketlistguy.com, and here I am 10 years later.
That's interesting how that came about. And one of the things I think is important for me, a lesson I've learned in my life is when you're learning stuff, like you can be told how to do it, you can be shown how to do it, you can do it. And you are doing all those things, going to seminars and learning, doing, showing. But until you actually like teach it yourself, you don't really master the topic to 100%. And I think that's interesting. When you start teaching it, you learn so much more about yourself than when you're just absorbing and consuming information.
One of the reasons why I became I really lent into speaking was the fact that it was my biggest fear, and it was a lot of people's biggest fear as well. And I thought to myself, that's the big domino, that I've got to push over myself in order for maybe other dominoes to fall as a result. And it was. And now, 10 years later doing this, it has, that pushing over that big domino at the start has allowed me to be very confident in a lot of other areas, which has been awesome. And the fact that, I've found my purpose, I'm really congruent with the message, and it's been my business ever since. It's been awesome. But at the time, it was kind of like right place, whenever we're on the precipice of change, there's always someone or some sort of incident or circumstance, situation that is the perfect storm for you to be able to do that change. For that, it was right at that point in time, where a friend of mine suggested, why don't I teach this stuff? I read a book by, here we go. I read a book by Tal Ben-Shahar. It's called Happier. Basically, a friend of mine gave me this book, and he's like a really popular positive psychologist that studied under the father of the modern day positive psychology movement, Martin Seligman. So he studied under Martin Seligman in that book. And I look back at it now, it's like, it doesn't even resonate with me. But at the time, he's got this diagram called the MPS process. It's a Venn diagram, 3 intersecting circles of what gives you meaning, what gives you pleasure, and what are your strengths. And in the middle is your calling. So right at that same time, when the French suggested I should speak, I did this. I read this, and I got motivation speaker. And I'm like, great, that's my calling in life. I'm like, couldn't it be something more? But it was really poignant. It was part of that perfect storm. And this book, funnily enough, was given to me by a friend of mine who was basically saying, look, you miserable prick, every time we catch up, you really you're down the dumps. So why don't you read a book on happiness? And it might have an effect. So it did. And it was that, and actually the third thing that led me to really push into this, and the title of this podcast is All In. That's what you're all about. This is what led me to really go all in. I was at one of the seminars, and in personal development, you do the share thing, and I tell you my story. Your partner tells you theirs, and we're doing that. And I told her, this lady by the name of Deb, my story, and there was, your own perception is your own reality at the time. So I was in a pretty dark place for me. And then I said, all right, well, that's my story, Deb. What about you? And she said, well, Trav, that's all well and good. She was a mid-40s lady. She said, Trav, I've just had a hysterectomy, and I'm now clear of cancer and I really wanted to have kids. And I just went, it was kind of like I became like instantly grateful, like really,
Mm-hmm.
and it hasn't left me ever since. I've got excellent health. What the you complained about, mate? That was my question to myself. What gives you the right to play small? What gives you the right to really complain about the things that you are complaining about? So it was a massive shift to really lean into this, and as a result, everything that I do today encapsulates happier, gratitude, and I find flow in presenting to bigger audiences and affecting more lives of more people, coaching one to many from a stage, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So you touch on a lot of stuff here. Like you discovered your purpose in life. A lot of people don't have that. You're helping others. You're living a life. I guess a lot of people might say you're lucky. You're doing. When I think of bucket list, I think of all the cool, fun things I wish I could do, but don't have the time to do. And I'm sure most people are in the same boat. Say, oh, he's lucky. He's living this life of just kind of like hands out. But, what are your thoughts on the word luck? How do you feel about luck?
No, there's nothing. It's bullshit. We create our own luck. It is a matter of if the way what NLP teaches us is that we've got 2 million bits of information coming into us every second, or something crazy like that, and then we distort, generalize that information to make it meaningful for us. And apparently, we've got 7 plus or minus 2 that it gets distorted and generalized to bits of information that we can then process. So if you put yourself around information, around people, around books, education, learning, people who are setting the example for you, if you put yourself in those kind of ecosystems around those kind of learnings, around those kind of people, it will have an effect. That's not luck. That's just a predetermined design of what you want in life. And, I say, and because of that, I say that, if the why is strong enough, the how will work itself out. It's not a matter of luck. It's a matter of getting really clear on what you want in life. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they're not clear, and as far as the bucket list concept is concerned, I've been helping people. It's not just about writing a list and then going and doing it. It's not just about travel either. I did a TED talk about 5 years ago called Life's Too Short by Trav Bell. And I introduced and unpacked a concept called the My Bucket List Blueprints, it's an acronym for how to write a personally meaningful and holistic bucket list. And travel is just one of those 12 areas that we discover. So it helps people crystallize and design, this tangible life plan and that's what I say a bucket list is. It's a tangible life plan where our career plan or our business plan should fit into our life plan and not be the other way around. The fact is that when you start defining and writing it and extracting, articulating, onto a piece of paper and just writing down your goals to start off with, your mind, the universe, whatever you want to call it, has a funny way of then having those goals or the pathway towards those goals actually manifest and show up. Okay, the deal is if you actually write down a goal, you've got a 42% more likelihood of them actually coming to fruition. 42%. So you might as well write stuff down, because in the process of consciously writing something down, or not just thinking it, but writing it down, the world, the situation, your mindset, how we distort information, how we generalize information, how we pick apart all these 2 million pieces to make it meaningful for us. It starts with that intention. If you don't have that intention, there's no road signs for that information to flow on.
I like, for me, if I write down something then I start I start getting thoughts of how to accomplish it. So like
You do.
I'll go to an example of like, hey, if I have a goal, want to learn a skill, or I want to do something bigger and bolder, and say I want to get in shape, get fit, you start writing down the stuff. You start thinking like, how can I accomplish this? And a lot of times we don't know how to do it. Like if I said, hey, I want to pick up a skill of archery, I don't know how to do it. I don't know anybody that knows how to do it. Like in my immediate circle, I don't know anybody, but I do know that there's probably a place that sells archery equipment. And if I go to that place that sells archery equipment and I immerse myself with people around there, I'm probably going to get introduced to somebody that could teach me how to do archery. And the more I go and learn about it, the more likely I'm going to get successful at it. So I think for me, like every time you start setting a goal, you just start moving in that direction. And like you're right, the universe does start bringing people into your life that help you accomplish that goal.
Yeah. So I'll give you what was the last car that you bought?
The last part of my wife's car we bought was a white Acura MDX.
Okay. And as soon as you bought it, did you notice all the other cars exactly like that on the road?
Yeah, you start noticing those all the time.
Did you notice them really before?
I will say yes, but only because this was my wife's third Acura MDX we had, and the second in a row that was white. So we'd been noticing them for quite a while. But yeah, you're very aware when that happens.
You know, it's crazy how that happens, though. You've got a heightened awareness around the things that you want in life, and the things that are current to you. So if you buy that red car or whatever it is, and you'll notice all those other red cars. They were there beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll notice those red cars now because they're in your vision. The problem isn't luck. Well, it's not a luck situation. It's about design. You know, people are living by default, not by design.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they are just. There's a lot of people, and I've said this out loud to hundreds of thousands of people. A lot of people are sleepwalking through their life. 87% of Americans now are what they call disengaged. What does that even mean? Well, there's 87% of Americans right now who go to work every day that just don't want to really be there.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like they're hamsters on the wheel in the matrix, sleepwalking through their life, and what I call sheeple.
Mm-hmm.
So stop living by default, live by design, put some effort into actually. The fact is that people are shit scared about actually writing down goals in the first place because they think that they're not going to come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Trust the process, write some stuff down, and use Nate's help to make you accountable to them. And at the end of the day, we want to just get these things out of your head. See, here's the thing. We're so busy on our to-do list that we forget about our bucket list until something traumatic or dramatic happens to us or a loved one. So it's funny, isn't it, that just like the movie, like if anyone's seen the movie The Bucket List, and I reckon the movie's shit because it's about two guys who get given a cancer diagnosis and then they write a bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
That's stupid, isn't it? I want to help wake people up before they get given a use-by date. Okay, It's funny how we're so busy being busy. It's not until we get given a use-by date that we pivot on our priorities, and suddenly our bucket list becomes really important. Yeah, when you're on death's door. So just take the time whilst in isolation to separate your daily to-do list from your bucket list, because at the moment they're all swimming up there all together. What we've got to do is create some separation. That separation starts with you actually just writing some stuff down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you a bit more clarity on, you said bucket list isn't just like this travel list or this thing to do. It's a little bit different. And I want to like, to me, when we start talking, like, hey, I'm going to talk about my bucket list. So for me, I'd say the number one thing on my bucket list is to go walk the Camino de Santiago. Are you familiar with the Camino de Santiago? So
I am.
And it's one of these things that I've been thinking about doing for at least 5 years. And I've said, okay, maybe I want to do it by the time I'm 50, which would be like about 5 years and a few months. away.
I'm closer.
And then I go, there's not, like, I'll make up reasons why I can't go do it right now. But in reality, if I said, do you want to go tomorrow and do this? I mean, in here, I could even say, well, the current timing of the situation still prevents me from doing it. But that the reality is, could I go do it? But the things that have been holding me back are, one, it's this idea of taking a time out of my life to go somewhere. And I think the walk takes 6 to 8 weeks. So it's like, it's not like you go like, I got 2 weeks off, I'm gonna go take the vacation. But people do go walk the walk in like 2-week increments and then take like maybe like 4 years to complete the walk. They go out, walk like a journey of it, and then come back the next year and walk another little bit of journey. And I'm like for to me, if I was saying this is on my bucket list, one, is this an idea that would be on the bucket list you're defining it? And like, what would be your things you'd tell somebody like myself of how to overcome this fear and make it a reality and live your life, like you said, by design?
Look, I don't think it's a fear. I think you're looking at it from it's not a matter of resources, it's a matter of resourcefulness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's funny how people become infinitely resourceful when they really have to. True.
Right.
So I'd be looking at if you want to do extended things like this on your bucket list, well, create a life that allows you to do it.
Mm-hmm. Get
a vehicle that allows you to do it. You know, our jobs and our business, I don't know what you know, like everyone does for a living, but we live in more of a flexible world now than ever in terms of work-life, what I call work-life blend, not work-life balance. Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got the means now more than ever, you know, and everyone's going online. They're adapting, innovating, and radically collaborating more than ever right now, right in the thick of this coronavirus and isolation. So that's showing us that we can work in different ways. And sure, you know, what we do for our businesses or our jobs, there might be some flexibility, there might not be some flexibility, but the thing is that everything is up for negotiation right now. Mm-hmm. People are jumping out of things that they don't enjoy and jumping into things that they do. You know, most people have got some kind of side hustle now, you know, and another stream of income. Now, if you're dependent, if all your eggs are in one basket and it allows you no time off to actually enjoy your life, is it the vehicle that you planned and hoped and dreamed of? Mm-hmm. You know, for a lot of people, they're taking that big, deep breath in at the moment and recalibrating on their own happiness. And am I fulfilled? You know, is this thing going to continually allow me to you know, live my life and be the example for my kids to follow and go towards happiness? So our jobs, our careers, or our businesses really should produce two things and two things only, and that is to produce the cash flow and also the time flow for us to do the stuff on our bucket list, right? Double bonus. If you're of service and you're helping other people and it's hitting your internal rule book, which is called your values, then I think that's a double bonus. That's kind of like the holy grail. I actually like what I do for a living. And there's a lot of people that can't say that. But, you know, right now, if people are listening to this or watching this, it could be time. I'm not saying you should, you must, or you have to, or anything like that, but just take stock of, is this the vehicle for me? Is this, see, the fact is, man, is a lot of us live in a delayed gratification society. I'll be happy when syndrome. They're waiting for someday or the perfect time. Someday ain't a day of the week, and there is no perfect time. Mm-hmm. See, the fact is that a lot of people get to retirement age and they haven't even got the health and the fitness to do the Camino.
Yeah.
You know, and that is a regretful life. That's not a regret-free life. So I'd be looking at, okay, well, all right, what do I got to change? What have I got to change to allow me the cash flow and the time flow? Can I go online? Can I get another business going? Or can I, you know, rework things so I can, you know, have an extended period off, you know, whatever it might be. But also, so I don't want you to wait until it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that rips the heart out of people. And I'd also challenge you to go, all right, well, if that's the thing on your bucket list, what else is? So it's not just the Camino. You know, I'm doing 5 things at the moment on my bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
I've got about 350 things on my bucket list to do before and I've done about 300 things, like they can be big and they can be small. So the fact is, and why I created this My Bucket List Blueprint, is the fact that travel adventures in particular take a lot of time and money to put together. And unfortunately, we're waiting, hoping, praying until it's, way down the track for us to actually tick that stuff off. Be a tourist in your own town first. What are the other things that you can do on your bucket list? Put a lot of small things on, and that'll give you you're crossing them off will give you the momentum and motivation to smash through the bigger ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe in instant gratification as well as delayed gratification. And look at all the other things that you can do now that gives you that.
Yeah, I'm really resonating with what you're talking about, of like the small bucket list of having a lot of things. Like for me, you when you, even like the big one, like I said, the Camino Santiago, you say, I want to do this. And then you list off the reasons. What's the first thing you do? You list off the reasons why you can't do something. And you start going like, what are the things I could do to overcome these no's, these obstacles, these restraints? And then you break it down like super small, and you go, okay, well, am I living the life that is affording me the things I want to do? And when you break it down to the very, very minutiae stuff, it's like there's something that's holding you back that's small. Like maybe it's
100%.
I'm not comfortable with asking for a little more time off, or asking for a raise, or asking for, or searching for a new job, or changing my daily routine just a little bit to start building traction, building momentum, and afford it. My grandfather used to always say, expenses rise to meet income. And I took that as like, every time you get, a little bit more money in the bank, there's always some other expense will come up to kind of take it, but you always find a way to make do. But I think it reverses it a little bit. And it's like, you find time, or you find money for the things that are a priority to you. So if you put these big things you want as priority, you're going to focus on them.
So as another alternative, I've had people, and I get, the coolest thing about my job is the fact that I get sent videos, GoPro footage, photos, and I get tagged in stuff every single day. It's awesome, from bucket listers all around the world. And now we've got our certified bucket list coaches out there teaching my staff in 20 countries now. And the awesome, we're giving people these insights and these tools to design their life, and through our coaches, we're helping a lot of people, which is awesome. One of the things I was going to say, one of the things that people have done over the years and reported back to me is, I had this young girl, she wanted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. She's like, I haven't got the money, but then she came back to me about a month later. She goes, I found a way. I'm doing it for charity. I went, that's interesting. So you've started the charity process? Yeah. I did a campaign, an online, I think it was Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever it was. And I'm raising money for a local, I forget what it was, but she raised money for charity, sent me the pictures of her on the top of it, raised a bunch of money for charity. You find a way. Look at it in different ways. Got to look at it different ways.
You do.
How is your employer or someone that you know connected to a charity? Could you and a maybe bunch of work colleagues do it all together? Maybe that's a way of making it happen. I don't know.
Yeah,
so you got to be resourceful. You got to look at things differently.
You have to ask yourself better questions. Like if you say, if I tried everything, well, you can't have tried everything, because there is some solution that you just haven't tried everything yet. Because when you'll find a way to do it, like over time, with enough questions, enough ways of going about it, you'll find a way. And sometimes it's asking the question differently, looking at the problem differently. And it comes to you. And that's another thing, going back to like the universe kind of provides you these answers. Like sometimes you're just not ready, I think, to receive the message. You have to learn a few lessons in life. But when the time comes, you're like, and now I know why that happened, because I wouldn't have seen this if I didn't had that lesson happen before, and it's right there for you.
I've had another person and it's really cool, this conversation, because I've had another person, a young guy. He turned one of his travel adventures into a social media campaign for his company.
That's a good idea.
He took people on the journey. Was it marathon or something? Yeah. And he training for the marathon and doing the marathon. Yeah, something like that, if I remember. And he turned it into a whole social media campaign set up this whole system and helped promote his company, promote his business through it, and they paid for everything.
There's a will. If you put your thinking cap on, you'll find a way. So yeah, I mean, you talked a little bit about what all in means to you, but how would you talk to somebody and explain to them what it means to go all in on an idea or maybe an outcome?
It's a really great question. And I'll frame it up with, for me, if you're getting tattoos on your hands that actually says your brand, does that say all in or not?
It says bucket list, so I'm going to say it says all in Australian.
Yeah, it says bucket list right there on my hands. So I can't go backwards. That's all in. And the point being that I believe in all in. You know, if I've got another tattoo that says, if it is to be, it is up to me. It's about having a clear, very, very clear vision and mission, you know, about what you want to do in this life, or for whatever pursuit it's going to be. For me, my personal mantra is to be the best me that I can be while I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, we've got different visions and missions for our companies, but that, you know, you got to learn. You know, going all in. You look at, you know, I've been in business my whole life, and you gotta take 4 punches to the face and get up on the 5th. It's just that's what all in means. It certainly does to me. Not that I'm expecting punches to the face, but these are metaphorical punches, of course.
Yeah.
And to never, ever, ever give up. But you've got to tweak the sails.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to always stay north. But you know, how full on are you about staying on the path and going towards that destination? And you've got to have balls to do it, I think, you know, and metaphorically speaking, of course. Mm-hmm. And it's not for the faint-hearted. You know, there's only a few. I feel going all in is really about us taking full on 100% ownership over our life, being 100% responsible, and also being 100% accountable to ourselves. You know, going all in is making the decision. And you're always going to have that no matter what. And look, actually, a coach said to me this once when I was starting the speaking game, because we've all got that imposter syndrome, is like that other voice inside of our head saying, who the hell do you think you are? Like, what gives you the right to go out there and think you're all that, and, you know, go out and speak on these stages around the world, and you know, call yourself the world's #1 bucket list? Like, who that really? You know, like, and so that's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And that is actually, I've learned since that's actually an inbuilt part of our brain, the reptilian brain, as they call it. And that is designed to keep us safe, you know, to keep us away from fear, you know, fight or flight. That is the flight right there. That is always there. No matter the most motivated, on point, risk adverse people in the world, there's always that little voice somewhere. The coach said this to me once. He goes, how many people are you actually out there helping with what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I guess I'm helping. He goes, go help more. because if you go out and help more, their appreciation, their gratitude, the help that you give them, the results that you give, there'll be so much love coming your way that appreciation, those recommendations, that applause to a certain extent, those testimonials, after a while, you go and help enough people, that will drown out, that will silence the inner voice of saying why you can't do it. It'll be too loud. It will be too loud to ignore, and you have to go towards it.
There's definitely a lot of truth in what you're saying. Is like, at first you start doing it, you don't know if you have the confidence. You're like, will people really resonate with what I'm saying? Am I really helping somebody? But when it keeps coming back, you see what you're doing. And then I think when you really start seeing that you help somebody else, and this like network of people you're interacting with, and the results are going up, you're right. They do speak for themselves, and that imposter syndrome goes away. But it's also true, like, the thing that's holding most people back, say everybody back from being their best version of themselves, is it's within themselves. Is you're choosing to listen to the voice that says you're not good enough to do it. And the people you go, like, if I look at you and say, oh, of course he's doing he's the bucket list guy. Like, but there was a point in your life when you weren't the bucket list guy, and you became the bucket list guy, and you start moving in that direction. So it's what we identify with ourselves, because, like, you could be that guy that does what they're called to do, or you could be the person that doesn't answer that calling and wakes up and when they're 80 and goes, I wish I had done more. Now I don't have the time to do it. Don't have the health to do it. So I think that bucket list, it's also in your head of like, hey, don't always listen to that voice that tells you you're not good enough or there's time later. Just keep moving forward.
Look, here's the deal, man. We're all, that famous Furlock, I think he said it, we're all comparing our behind the scenes footage with someone else's highlights reel.
Mm-hmm.
We're always comparing ourselves. Here's the thing. If you put yourself out there, if anyone watching this, listening to this, puts themselves out there, the world, your parents, your friends aren't sitting by their computer ready to troll your ass. They're not. They're not sitting there going, oh, I'll wait till Nate puts out his first blog post or goes and does that thing that he's always been talking about. I am going to smash him. I'm going to smash him publicly when he does that. They're all too fucking busy with their own lives. They don't, seriously, there's too much noise. So you might as well just like get in amongst the noise at least, let alone rise above it. And you've got to polarize people in order to get anywhere. You do. You've got to have an opinion. And as you get older, you have more opinions, and that's just the way it goes. But no one's sitting there waiting to tear you down. What are you afraid of? When I started this bucket list journey, someone called me the bucket list guy, as I said. I went home and registered the domain name. Now, truth is, I went on to the Google machine, the internet. I think it was freaking dial-up back then, and I'm like, who's like the Mac Daddy? Who's like the king of bucket lists? Who's the number one expert? Oh, look, no one was the world's. So I literally called myself the world's number one bucket list expert, and then just told everyone that I was on every interview, every podcast ever since, and every audience. I've got no shame around it because no one else was saying it. So fuck it, I said it.
Yeah.
And that gave me the platform, like the massive shoes to fill, and it made me step up. And I've been doing that ever since.
Yeah.
I'm on media and I'm all this sort of thing, and they're all like, hey, we really want you on this piece of media, or do this article, or, on the Today program, or whatever it is. And because you're the world's number one bucket list expert, and we're doing these experts that we've interviewed all these other people, we really want your opinion because you're the world's number one. I'm like, you got me. I'm so important. But the fact is, man, you got to, that's going all in.
Yeah,
that's going all in.
You definitely have described all in. So if I'm sitting at home and I'm wondering, like, am I right to work with you? What does the person look like, smell like? What are the thoughts in their head? Like, who are you really looking? Who's your best person do you want to work with? ideally?
Anyone on the precipice of change. If you're not, like I say, people are dying at 40 and being buried at 80. Let that sink in. And there's people that are dissatisfied with life. There's people going through mental health challenges right now. And, I, for one, I know I've got some tools to help them navigate their way out of it. The basis of what I teach through the bucket list concept really is founded on positive psychology, helping people find more meaning, more purpose, and more fulfillment in their life. And I want to help people who are at that point or the precipice of change. They know they want something better, because the last thing I want to sort of contribute to this podcast is telling people how to live their life, or people might be really happy, they might be really fulfilled. Cool. What I'm saying, it might be just icing on the cake, but for some people, they're like, you know what, I'm ready to draw the line in the sand. I want to change, and I want to change for the better, and I want to get to a happier place. And I know that's going to have an effect on my life in a big way, And it's not just about writing a whole bunch of cool stuff off, writing down a whole bunch of cool stuff off on your bucket list and then going and ticking it. It's really about how a person reverse engineers every aspect of their life. And it's the journey and growth of that person towards those destinations. But more importantly, it's about the person that exists on the other side of that bucket list tick. And that's called our potential. When we see our potential, it puts a smile on our face. It brings us happiness. The human experience, mate, the human experience is about helping. I feel, my job is to help people experience more of their own potential, of more of this thing called the human experience, rather than getting to the age of 80 and then having all these regrets of why they couldn't and why they didn't. The number one regret, according to the top 5 regrets of the dying by Bronnie Ware, the book, was the number one regret is I wish I lived a life true to myself, not what others expected of me. Another one is I wish I let myself be happier. So if people want more fulfillment, definitely, that's why we need to connect.
That's a powerful why. And I think a lot of people have that. And I encourage you to reach out, connect with Theo Trav, because, if you don't, you let this slip by, you're not going to live that fulfillment. And you have to, if you're asking these questions, they're not going to go away. That itch isn't going to be scratched. And you just need to just kind of take that first step and ask, hey, how could I live a little bit better life than I perceive myself? You don't have to jump from 0 to 100 in day one. You just go 0 to 1, 0 to 1, and then take another step and another step. And you'll take a path down that'll start, bringing you the right things into your life that you want to. So I've just loved this conversation. I feel super inspired. You're like speaking my message completely, because I think I'm right in this path of the person you're speaking to myself. And like, that's been my journey, is just like, hey, I'm going to stop getting the self-doubt, the negative talk hold me back from being the best version of myself. And I just know that when I do go down a path of self-development, it tends to work out pretty good, and the results are always surprising where it goes. So I definitely encourage it. So
we're going to get around other people. We've got to get around other people, whether it be pay to play, through coaches or mentors, a circle of influences. We've got to get around other people. That's the biggest defining factor, the result of the 5 closest people you hang around. I reckon, like whether they be alive or dead, accessible or not accessible, there's people around you that inspire you. If you look at all the aspects of your life, or the different life accounts, health, wealth, relationships, and you analyze, all right, 10 is my 10, and where's the gap? Where are you on that Likert scale right now? Your health might be 3 out of 10. All right, what are we going to do to close that gap? Do a serious stock take of where you're at. And I think the bucket list sort of personifies and encapsulates a lot of the areas of our life. It's these bucket list items are what we call achievement goals, not habit goals. That's a whole other conversation. But it can be the north on the compass to help everyone realign, recalibrate towards. So I definitely encourage everyone to learn more, connect, and happy to help.
Very cool. So where can people connect with you? Where should we send them?
Go to thebucketlistguy.com is probably the best. I've got a bucket list life plan starting in a couple of weeks, and that's an online program. Or probably I think we just connected on LinkedIn and Facebook and Insta. One of the whatever your drug of choice is. It's I think it's Trav Bell the Bucket List Guy on Facebook and LinkedIn, and bucketlistguy.travbell on Insta, or trav@thebucketlistguy.com. You can email me.
Very cool. So I'll put all those links in the show notes for anybody who wants to reach out. And I definitely encourage you to reach out and connect with Trav too, and just see what he's up to. You know, some of the times the first step is to just observe, see what somebody's about, watch what they're doing, and see if they're right for you. And I think you're going to get some inspiration. I think I got a ton of inspiration just listening to you, and there's definitely going to be a lot more, keeping an eye on what you're up to. So definitely all those links will be in the show notes. Connect with Trav and see what he's up to. Awesome. Thanks for coming out and chatting on the show here.
Yeah, no worries, Nate. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.